Greetings and welcome to today's Extraordinary Connection. My name is Pastor Devin and I serve at Romeo UMC, and I thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day here today to spend some time with me. During a recent conversation with one of my children, I was asked, "Dad, why don't we hear about Joseph that much in the Bible?" This was, of course, as we were on the floor playing with our kid's little nativity set that lives underneath our Christmas tree. If I'm not mistaken, I believe at that very moment, I believe that Joseph was actually standing on the roof of the stable in our set. Not quite sure what he was doing up there, but that question that was asked by my child, it stuck in my mind a little this past week. They're of course right that we don't really have all that much information about this man who God chose to be Jesus's earthly father. We are told in Matthew that he was a righteous man. And I would say he was a faithful man as well, because even though he initially had some doubts, he planned to part ways with Mary. When that angel appeared to him, he, much like Mary, he trusted in the Lord's plans, and he stayed faithful to Mary and stayed faithful to God. Perhaps, like you, like I have, heard this discussed many times over the years, brought up in sermons, especially this time of year and around the Advent holiday leading up to Christmas. That's when we hear the little that we do about Joseph. But this week, as I had those thoughts of Joseph swirling in my mind, I also at the same time had something else that was swirling in there. And what that was at the deepest and most heartfelt thanks. You see, I think often in the church we fail to realize, or maybe fail to recognize, all the moving parts that make it possible for us to be the church. This really came to the forefront for me for a few reasons, but chief among them this week, we have a weekly meal, his table we call it. It's served out of our church every Tuesday. We have a pretty good crowd that comes to the church for the meal, and we also have a decent number of meals each week that are delivered. We have people who take them out and deliver them to those who cannot come to the church, cannot make it in. And while this meal is hosted here at Romeo each week, it's really only possible because of the partnerships we have with so many other local area churches, so many other community groups that are in this area. The meal is 100% volunteer run. And this week it really struck me when it was about 10 in the morning, give or take, that there were already people back there in our kitchen. They were making the preparations for the meal that would be served at 5:30 that evening. They were here all day, preparing food, preparing the tables and space and plates and silverware, making sure the takeout containers were prepped and ready to go. They were doing all that stuff that has to happen behind the scenes. And come 5:30, the building started to fill up. Those who come faithfully. They took their seats, and from 5:30 to 6:30 the meal was served like it always is. People came and they enjoyed the warm and the delicious meal, I might add. They enjoyed having that warm place to be in, warm room to be in, the warm coffee that was served. They enjoyed the warmth of the conversation they had with friends around the tables. And for the most part, by 6:30 or so, most had gone on their way. They'd headed home for the evening. But those volunteers, they were still there. They were cleaning dishes and trays and tables and floors. They made sure that all of that stuff that they'd prepared earlier in the day, each and every piece of it was put away, put in its place, the room and kitchen left clean, ready to go for the next group to come in, for the next meal to be served. And it was close to 8 o'clock last night when I was leaving the church, when I was leaving a meeting here at the church. And the last few of those volunteers were still just finishing up. They were here at 10 in the morning. They were leaving at 8 at night. And as I thought about those individuals, it made me think of all the other ways people serve and volunteer in the church. Of course, there are some of those times when those volunteers, they're seen in the course of their volunteering. Their efforts are seen as they usher or greet or or serve in different capacities. We see them doing those things. But how often are those volunteers' actions unseen? Working to prepare in quiet, spending hours of their time shopping for supplies, preparing for those who will come to whatever the event may be, whatever the preparations are needed for. And of course, the cleaning up after those events, after those times are over. All of that's done away from the eyes of the church, eyes of those who come. Those volunteers, they're doing it because they have a love for the Lord and want to provide others with opportunities to likewise know that love. My friends, I think that's what kind of dawned on me this week as I had all those swirling thoughts combined in my mind. Those volunteers, those members of our churches, those are the Josephs that are in our midst. Those who do what needs to be done. Those who do it without ever a mention of their name or minimal mention of their name, perhaps. Those who are righteous and faithful in all the ways they serve God. I may not say it enough. So here today, I'm going to say a big thank you to all those selfless servants, to those here at Romeo UMC who make our ministries and missions possible, but just as importantly, to those working in churches all across our state, our country, all over our world. And I know you don't do it for the thanks or for the credit. You don't do it for any reason other than you love the Lord. But know today, you are appreciated. The work you do is invaluable. The opportunities you create for people of all ages to know and see and experience God, those are all vital to the mission of the church. So thank you to those unseen figures, those volunteers who, frankly, do the work, those who do it all for the glory of God. Thank you. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, take care, and God bless.